Market extends losses to trade near the day's low. Nifty slips below 23,700. Broader markets take a bigger hit as mid-cap falls 2%. Realty and metals are the big drags, even as all sectors trade in the red. Swiggy lists at a premium to its offer price of rupees 390, delivering gains to IPO investors after a not-so-strong subscription. Analysts, however, remain divided on the potential for gains from investing in the stock. NTPC Green will launch its 10,000 crore rupees IPO with an OFS in rupees 102 to 108 price band on 19th of November. The offering will be the third largest IPO of the year after Hyundai and Swiggy. Trump picks Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead the Department of Government Efficiency to drive efficiency in the government. But unlike the name suggests, the body will not be a government entity. Dogecoin jumps. October CPI inflation comes in at 14-month high of 6.2%, pulled up by largely vegetables. Yields inch higher up as tagged hopes come in on rate cuts, and even as some dovish in December vanish, rupee takes a breather as from its relentless fall since Trump win. Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18 and I'm Vinny Motiwala. A quick look at the market. We've seen a dragging even today in trade. Nifty has slipped below the 23,700 level today. As of now, you're looking at it, 23,660 is what it's holding on to. Day's lowest point, 0.9% of decline is what we're seeing coming in for the Nifty 50. Broader markets, that too, are underperforming the benchmark indices. So Nifty mid and the small cap both are down more than almost 2% in trade. Nifty mid cap is down almost 0.2% in trade, while the small cap is also down 2.5% in trade. Nifty Bank, that's also a drag coming in today. Not much of an excitement there among the top sectoral losers, what we could call in, also from the Nifty Bank side, down almost 1%. All the sectors, when you're looking at it, are trading in the red today. And topping that list in terms of losers today, we have Nifty Realty as well as Nifty Metal. Top drags there coming in. Nifty Realty down almost 3%. Nifty Metals too approximately down more than 2.5% in trade. Some of the movers that we're watching out for in trade, some bit of a green coming in from the pharma side. So Suven Pharma managing to hold on to some bit of a gain. MedPlus Health too holding on to gains after the Q2 numbers. While on the back of the Q2 numbers, we're seeing a decline coming in for Sula Vineyards. We're seeing Cello World, EPAC Durables as well as Hyundai that are seeing a bit of a drag in today's trade. So keep an eye out on these individual names as well that are in focus on the back of their numbers. But let's move on and start the show by talking about Swiggy, because Swiggy shares are surging after the food delivery platform had a tepid listing on the exchanges. The stock listed at 420 rupees a share versus the issue price, which was at 390 rupees. In fact, my colleague Shilpa Ranipeta quizzed the management at the press conference on the company's plan to expand the quick commerce side of the business, and here is what they had to say. Listen in.
Our food delivery business having turned profitable and at a very good pace of growth. It's still an early stage for India's food delivery industry. If you look at the overall size of the industry, and the online food delivery industry, there is a pretty massive scope for us to continue growing into this, larger macro factors that will continue to aid that growth. Talking about the quick commerce segment, we are seeing a pretty, robust consumer acceptance to larger categories, larger selection. The platforms that are currently doing a good job on speedy deliveries have to also been able to the consumers are reimagining the category in terms of what they would like to associate or want to purchase from these quick commerce platforms, and we are trying to do our best in terms of giving them more assortment, faster delivery times. So it's an exciting phase of our growth.
Okay, we also spoke to two big investors in Swiggy, and here is what they had to say about the listing.
Pretty excited. We've got, as you pointed out, reasonable liquidity. And I think the prospects of the company are very good. And as you know, there's a lockup period. But overall, we are very excited about the prospects of the company. And as of now, the plan is to hold. And if you look at retail overall, of the 700 billion plus, like India is still very early in the online penetration, and particularly quick commerce is even earlier. And it's about each company executing against its plan and growing. And the market is so large. Harsha has talked about it to the media as well. It's more how do consumers come more and more online, realize, taste the quick commerce experience, and then order more. So growth potential is much higher on the retail side.
Swiggy is a fundamentally very strong company for a few reasons. Number one, we have two core businesses as you highlighted. One is food and one is quick commerce. Both are growing reasonably fast. Food is already profitable. Quick commerce is trending towards that direction. And given the innovation DNA of the founding team and Harsha, I'll not be surprised if they keep coming up with new offers and new offerings and new products for their customers. So in total, I think I'm super excited about the kind of long-term prospects of Swiggy beyond what they've already built today.
Okay, now let's shift focus and talk about the other new kid on the block that we have. We have Acme Solar that also listed on the exchanges at a 13% discount to its issue price of 289 rupees. Earlier, we spoke to Nikhil Dhingra, who is the CEO of the company, and he spoke about the company's post-listing strategies, the guidance that they have on the way ahead. Listen in.
So in terms of our business, we are selling power in long-term contracts to the government, 25-year PPAs we have. And of course, as you know, in a renewable power, the good thing is there is a very low operating expense because it's a small maintenance of the plant, which is a very small number. So in effect, at the project level, you get a 90% plus EBITDA. And of course, when you are having a holding company, the operator overheads reducing, you get a more than 86-87% kind of EBITDA, which is fairly predictable. And of course, across our projects, this is the number we have been doing. It's a very PPA to PPA specific number, so it will be much higher than the number you said, because this number which you said will be reached almost by the capacity we are operationalizing this year and maybe the next year. So as you know, we have around 1800 megawatt peak of operational capacity in FY24, and this year we have already energized a 1800 megawatt plant. So effectively, our capacity has got doubled this year in terms of the megawatt peak. As we are moving forward, what is happening is these PPAs are FDRE, so the effective capacity which we are seeing is 6 gigawatt is effectively much more.
Okay, and let's move on to some macro data. Now, India's October inflation came in at a 14-month high of 6.21%, washing away any hopes of the rate cut in the December policy. The industrial output, or the IIP, for the month of September came in at 3.1%, much better than minus 0.1% in the previous month. Lata is here to give us an editor's take on that.
Well, the CPI number was always expected to come close to 6%. That was the CNBC-TV18 poll, but 6.2 is a bit of a nasty jar. The prime culprit has been food. It's up about 10.87. But before that, I just want to point out about the 6.21. It's coming about on a year ago number of 4.87. That's not all that low, you know. It's almost 5%. So you're clocking 6% over 5%. That in itself is not good. The prime engine, as I was saying, 10.87 rise in food, to which the contribution of vegetables was outsized at 42%. That's a bit of a relief, because veggies are always seasonal. You know, a crop is usually 90 days. So in winter months, you would normally see vegetable prices ebb away. But I would worry that two other important elements, cereals, are up 1% on the month. I mean, haven't we been speaking of an extraordinary Kharif and a likely good Rabi? Should not that have been depressing cereal prices? There's something structural about it, and I remember speaking to Dr. Ramesh Chand about it. He said the way in which we are designing support prices, there's something structural about the rise in cereal prices. But don't worry about that. The FAO index is also rising globally for cereals, so just a little bit of a worry. Edible oils are higher because the duty got raised. That again contributed some 9%. All these are worrisome things. Now, the full year number, which stands at 4.5 for the Reserve Bank, will have to be increased because we've got outsized numbers in both September and October. So from 4.5, the Reserve Bank will have to up it to 4.8. Now think of a monetary policy authority which has a over 6% number behind it. After all, their mandate is to keep it under 6%. You're above your mandate and you're going to raise the full year number. It's hardly a scenario where you can expect them to even talk dovish. Forget about cutting rates anytime soon. In my mind, even February is a question mark. But let's wait and see. There's a lot of data from now to then. A word about the growth data. Industrial output number coming in at 3.1 is a relief after that horrible number we saw in August. There is a lot going for the September output. Remember, this is not demand number. This is actual output that industries generate. Now, what will you be doing in September? You will produce for Navratri and Diwali, and this time both fell in October. You had very good reasons to have a good number in September. I would think that given these circumstances, 3.1 is still an unimpressive number. It also had a low base advantage. The positive is that consumer durables, consumer non-durables, capex, all of them were at least in positive. There were no negative numbers, but that's about the only thing I can say positive. 3.1 is unimpressive. August is minus 0.1. All this contribute to the GDP number, which will come out, that is the Q2 GDP number, which will come out on November 29th. Tough to see it above 6.5. That can be another nasty jar for the market.
Thank you so much for that, Lata. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. And after we return from the break, we'll focus on Delhi's air quality index as the state continues to choke under severe air pollution. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Let's move on. The Supreme Court came down hard on the bulldozer justice by the state government and said that executives cannot take the law into their own hands. Ashmit is joining in with us on the phone line with more details on this case. Ashmit?
Well, just to give our viewers a brief context, a batch of applications had been pressed before the apex court. The concern that had been raised is that in states like Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, there were instances of accused persons having their properties demolished under the guise of municipal laws. Now, this was the concern raised. Now, this is something that the apex court has come down severely on. The Supreme Court saying that the real motive behind these demolitions, behind these bulldozer demolitions, is actually to punish the accused without even trial. And this is where the Supreme Court comes in to say that the executive cannot replace the judiciary, that the executive cannot decide to punish the accused without trial, that even if a person is convicted of a heinous crime, and then demolitions cannot take place unless there is a procedure prescribed in law. The Supreme Court goes on to say that such actions by public officials cannot be tolerated, is a clear case of abuse of power. There is no place in our constitution, and that it will not be tolerated. And with that, the apex court went on to say that there is a need for accountability. Officers that are pressing for such bulldozer demolitions, there needs to be some accountability. And now, as a part of this judgment, has clarified that in case of magnified intent, in case of wrongful demolition, in such cases, such officers will be personally liable for restitution of the property at their own personal cost. This is a far-reaching order that the Supreme Court has passed, making public officers, especially of these municipal bodies, personally liable. Further, the Supreme Court goes on to say that as far as guidelines are required, there are detailed measure directions that the Supreme Court has laid down. Number one, there has to be a show cause notice. The show cause notice has to provide a window for 15 days within which they can seek, the persons affected can go ahead and seek legal remedy. There needs to be an arrangement whereby these public notices are shared with the district magistrate as well as on a portal to ensure that there is no backdating of these notices done by municipal bodies. Also, the Supreme Court records there needs to be a forum for personal hearing. There needs to be a personal hearing in case of demolitions. And finally, the Supreme Court goes on to conclude to say that the municipal bodies will have to demonstrate why demolition was the only possible alternative, why no other solution such as compounding of the illegal construction or only partial demolition was not possible, why that could not have been done. That is a case that now the municipal bodies will have to make. Essentially, the Supreme Court saying that life and liberty is critical, that a person's house reflects a lifetime of hard work, a lifetime of savings, and that it cannot be done under executive orders, wrongful executive orders by the government. Strong word coming in from the apex court. Back to you.
Sure. Thank you so much for that, Ashmit. But let's move on and moving on to some regional updates. Delhi continues to choke under severe air pollution with air quality index breaching the severe category. Abhimanyu is joining in with us with details on that.
Deteriorating air quality continues to be a concern in the national capital. Today morning, there was also an incidence of fog which was spotted by the IMD, and across North India, the incidence of fog has begun from today. There is decreased visibility at several airports, which may adversely impact flight operations. It remains to be seen how the situation is going to pan out, even as the IMD for now had explained the reason behind an increase in fog. The IMD had said that the incidence of smog, which was earlier present, along with a decrease in temperature, made the air more dense, which was making it even more difficult for the sunlight to permeate into the atmosphere, and possibly may lead to further deterioration in temperatures and possibly also in air quality if the sources of pollution do not subside. It remains to be seen how the situation is going to pan out in the next few days, even as the Diwali festival, the Chhath festival is already over. And farm fires, stubble burning, the incidents may have reduced since the previous years, but still instances are being reported and action is being taken by the central and state governments to reduce such instances.
Okay, that's the update coming in on air pollution in Delhi. But let's move on. And actually, we're going to slip into a very short break here. But here's a programming note for you. As CNBC-TV18 celebrates 25 years of excellence, we invite you to the most anticipated event of the year, the CNBC-TV18 Global Leadership Summit. On 14th of November, starting at 10 a.m. onwards, a power-packed day with several panels focusing on India's economy, digital landscape, markets, entertainment, and a lot more, only and only on CNBC-TV18. Thanks for staying tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Moving on to some assembly election updates. Now, the first phase of polling in Jharkhand is underway across 43 constituencies. Key candidates like former CM Champai Soren, BJP leader Geeta Koda, and Congress spokesperson Ajoy Kumar, are in the fray. Meanwhile, the Chief Minister Hemant Soren, who is seeking a re-election, cast his vote in Ranchi, and the second phase is scheduled for 20th of November in the remaining 38 constituencies. The counting of the vote will take place on 23rd of November. So that's the update coming in on the political front. Meanwhile, we also have by-elections which is underway in Wayanad Lok Sabha seat, which was vacated by leader of the opposition Rahul Gandhi in June this year. His sister Priyanka Gandhi Vadra is making her parliamentary debut from this seat, and the 52-year-old debutante is pitted against the CPI and the BJP. Okay, from the domestic front to some global updates, and as we move closer to January, we are getting a clearer picture on what Trump's administration is going to be looking like. The president-elect announces the formation of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, as he moves to the assembly, his team ahead of taking his office. Now, the DOGE which will work outside of the government with objectives of dismantling bureaucracy, slashing excess regulations and wasteful expenditures, and restructuring federal agencies, will be led by Elon Musk and Republican of Indian origin and former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Fox News anchor Pete Hegseth and has been nominated as Trump's Secretary of Defense, while John Ratcliffe, ex-director of National Intelligence, makes the cut to be the next CIA director. Okay, and with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. Midcap Radar up next.